everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Gio, and today I wanted to talk to you about the CWL Pro League Qualifier that we have just seen go down this week. So the CWL Pro League Qualifier is a tournament that has been held in Ohio this week for all the teams that place between 5th and 32nd in the CWL Vegas Open. These are all the teams that place behind OpTic, eUnited, Splyce and Luminosity, who placed in the top 4 in Vegas, and they will be fighting out for 12 more spots that are available for the CWL Pro League. So how did this tournament work? Well, basically the 28 teams were split into 4 pools of 7 teams, and they all compete in a round robin tournament. So by the end of the week, they all will have played every other team in their pool. The top 2 seeded teams in the pool are automatically qualified to go through to the CWL Pro League, and the bottom 2 are automatically disqualified. The middle 3 teams all get put into a 12-team double elimination bracket, and they all fight it out afterwards, and the top 4 teams from this double elimination bracket also auto-qualify to go through into the CWL, and everybody else has to say bye, they're going home. And of course, those 12 teams will be joining the top 4 teams from Las Vegas that I mentioned earlier. Now, this week was a week of some pretty big shakeups, upsets, really unexpected outcomes, and I think it's made it a really exciting week for esports. For example, Lightning Pandas, who came in the top 6 in Vegas, who narrowly missed out on qualifying, didn't even manage to qualify in the CWL Pro League qualifiers. They're completely out of the competition now. Whereas the first team to have qualified, Midnight Esports, were kind of a relatively unknown team, and certainly not who people would have put their money on to be the first team to have qualified. So there's been loads of really exciting things that happen, and we're going to go through some of the really big story points that happened on each of the days. So let's go. So here we can see the Pro League qualifier pools. Essentially the day 0 seeding. This was before any games have been played, and it's very strange looking back at this now that we've seen the entire week be done with, because you can tell how many upsets there were, how many things that we weren't expecting. As I mentioned in the intro, Lightning Pandas, sitting there at the top of Pool B, didn't even qualify to go through further in the competition. So there's been so many shakeups, but this is how things started off. So I suppose with all that bared in mind, let's jump straight into day 1. Team Space. This team started off the week rough, losing both of their day 1 matches. For a team of relatively experienced players, this wasn't what they were hoping for. With a 2-3 loss to 100 Thieves and a 0-3 loss to Overtime Esport, it was one of the first indications of big shakeups to come. Team Sween. The British team who came in the top 6 in Vegas found themselves losing in a clean 3-0 sweep to Reciprocity, who ended up rounding the day out in the top of the pool.
The lead, War Machine is out from Zed. There's 2, there's 3, there's a lightning strike earned. I just can't make it up. You can't make it up, folks. It's Seaside Hardpoint.
Team Envy. After a disappointing experience in Vegas, Envy faced G2 Esport, a team with 2 of its ex-members, Chino and Decimate. They went on to a 5th map, taking the series 3-2. Probably too close for comfort, but nonetheless a decent start for Envy. Okay, so this is what the qualifier pools look like at the end of day 1. So we can see Team Reciprocity, they took the lead in Pool A. Team Sween been nudged down to 4th place, which they started the pool at the top seeding. When we look at Pool B, of course, we see Lightning Pandas, they dropped down into 5th place from 1st, which is really crazy. Team Envy in 3rd, but one thing that you have to bear in mind about this competition is because of the nature of having a round robin of 7 teams fit into 4 days, there are going to be some days where a team will play 2 games and some days where a team will play 1. So Envy just happened to play 1 game this day, whereas Factor Revolution and Heretics both played 2. Now, once again, I mentioned in the beginning how Midnight Esports ended up being the first team to qualify, and we can already see an inkling of this showing up in here. They've taken the first spot in Pool C, and with Pool D, there have been a few shakeups. We still have Nation of Power sitting in the bottom there, but nothing too crazy, I don't think. So with all that in mind, now it's time to go on to day 2. Team Divine. Unexpectedly beating Team Reciprocity 3-0 after struggling with no wins. It caused a massive shakeup in Pool A, making it an unpredictable pool to judge, leaving the top 3 teams at a 3-way tie. Red Reserve. Evil Geniuses took Red Reserve 3-2 in a close series, giving Evil Geniuses a very real chance at taking a top 2 spot in Pool D. This means Red Reserve were going to have to be very careful to not drop out of the top 5. Team Envy. Day 2 saw Team Envy take on Heretics in one of the most fun series to watch. At first it looked like it could have been an easy 3-0 for Heretics, but Envy came in with a reverse sweep, placing themselves nicely at the top of Pool B. It also meant that now their hardest games were over, they could go on to the rest, knowing that they had the confidence that they'd already won the difficult games. So now we look at the pool standings from the end of day 2. So Envy, there we go, sitting at the top of Pool B there. As I said, they had their hardest games over at this point, so they kind of could relax a bit and have that confidence knowing that they're probably going to do fairly well going forward. Lightning Pandas finally dropped to the bottom. Maybe there's hope. Narrator voice. They didn't have any hope. And so yeah, as I said, there was this 3-way tie at the beginning of Pool A by the end of day 2. So we have Team Reciprocity, Project 18, and Team Sween all sitting essentially in first place in Pool A at the time. And this is where people started to suspect that, oh my god, maybe it wouldn't be just as easy as having like a top 2 in each pool. We might have to have all these tiebreakers and stuff. Who knows? There were so many mathematical potential outcomes for all these things. But it's interesting seeing who is in the top 3, because Pool A really did shake up a lot over the course of this week, and looking at this standing now and knowing how it ended up is very strange. No spoilers. So yeah, I also mentioned Red Reserve, who were at a really real risk of dropping into the bottom 2 in Pool D. After day 2, it was a really big risk. They were going to have to work really hard after these 2 days to pull themselves up, ensure that they still had a chance of qualifying, if not be in brackets at the very least. They didn't want to drop down into those bottom. But Mindfreak doing pretty well in Pool D. In fact, obviously you can see of all the first seed teams in these pools, Team Reciprocity are actually the only ones with a loss. So the top teams in these pools are actually doing very well, and it is also a testament to how close Pool A is and how unpredictable it's getting. So let's look into day 3. Midnight Esports. After facing Team Space, Midnight Esports found themselves unofficially qualifying for the CWL. While there were mathematical possibilities that didn't quite cement it, it was looking fairly decided. The series went to the 4th map, where Midnight won the hard point 250 to 249 points, giving them a 5-0 differential.
All right, let's look at Pool C now, and Midnight, an enormous congratulations to them, because they are officially our first team to qualify for the Pro League.
Unreal. Unreal.
FaZe Clan. The 2018 CWL Stage 1 champions were having a really difficult day, or perhaps even just a difficult week. They were finding themselves slipping down the standings, especially after their 0-3 loss to Reciprocity. They even made a role switch between Crowder and Priester to try and help, but it was going to take some getting used to before it had the efficacy that they hoped. 100 Thieves. This team of Call of Duty veterans was having a hard time, leaving fans and analysts to question what it was that was going wrong for them. It got a bit too close for comfort as they narrowly won to the struggling Mesa Gaming, but they did also manage to scrape a win against Overtime Esports too. Alright, so here are the pool standings at the end of day 3. As you can see, Midnight Esports doing so well, which was just really unexpected. Of all these teams, Midnight Esports sort of came out of nowhere. And you can also see Nation of Power at the bottom of Pool D there. No way of them making it into the brackets, let alone into qualifying. We look over at Pool A. As I say, so many shakeups. Team Reciprocity, who were at the top, now down into the 4th seeding. FaZe Clan sitting in 6th place, while their B team, FC Black, up in 3rd. Now, that was something people were talking about, maybe a little bit embarrassing, but also something to be concerned about. These guys were the champions last year. You know, what are they doing in 6th place in the pool? Again, Pool B, we see Team Envy sitting at the top with a 4-0 win-loss, looking really strong. Team Heretics right on their tail, and I will say Team Heretics have been immensely fun to watch. So it's pretty interesting with Pool B because the top seems to be quite close, and those games are really great, but then with kind of Giants and Lightning Pandas at the bottom who aren't doing so great, it's a little bit more divided. Pool C, of course, Midnight Esports, and then Mesa Gaming at the bottom. So you can see when 100 Thieves really nearly lost to Mesa Gaming, how much of a big deal that was, because Mesa Gaming haven't taken a win at all at this point in the competition. And when you are a team made up of all these veterans who are supposed to be amazing at the game, you don't want to be losing to a team that hasn't got any wins. You don't want to be that team. And to an extent, it is embarrassing. So 100 Thieves struggling, really need to kind of pull it out. Pool D is kind of evening out a little bit. There haven't been any like crazy shakeups or anything. So let's look into how day 4 went. Reciprocity. Their series against Project 18 was one of the quickest in the Pro League qualifier, with a hardpoint score of 250 to 33, helping provide them with a quick 3-0 win. This cemented Reciprocity's spot in the top 2 and brought Project 18's fight home out of the league.
He doesn't have a thermal though, like it's so hard to see him. How did APOC see him?
I have no idea.
Hit marker as well. We have a swim battle and APOC wins it.
Heretics. The Spanish team were up facing G2 Esports, knowing that whoever won would qualify, and the loser would have to face the brackets on day 5. The series went to 5 maps, with some of the biggest clutch plays we'd seen in the week, but ultimately, Heretics took the spot for themselves.
See you down 1v3 for Blast.
Can Blast do it? Can he hold on?
Oh, the stun.
He's in the vents. The stun
There we
comes
go.
in, the grab slam through. And Heretics in the Pro League. Vamos!
100 Thieves. Redemption! Miraculously, 100 Thieves seemed to turn themselves around after a disappointing first 3 days. They ended up qualifying after taking a solid 3-0 against Accelerate. Okay, so by the end of day 4, as you can see in the pool standings, we know exactly who is qualified, who is disqualified, and who is going into the double elimination brackets. So in Pool A, we have Enigma 6 and Team Reciprocity in the top 2, with Project 18 and Team Divine in the bottom 2. Pool B, we have Team Envy and Team Heretics in the top 2, with Vodafone Giants and Lightning Pandas in the bottom 2. Pool C, Midnight Esports, of course, and 100 Thieves in the top 2, with the Pittsburgh Knights and Mesa Gaming in the bottom 2. And then finally, Pool D, we have Evil Geniuses and UYU in the top 2, with Imperial and Nation of Power being in the bottom 2. Now, you'll notice some of these team names have little asterisks next to them, and that is because you will see how the scores are. They had to do head-to-head tiebreakers to see how the seedings were going to be. So that's actually how UYU ended up in the top 2 in Pool D, because you'll see that Red Reserve and Mindfreak both also have a 4-2 differential. But I don't know, I think it's really crazy. Again, Pool A, we saw things going up and down. Team Reciprocity were up here, then they were down here, and whatever. FaZe Clan did end up managing to place higher than FC Black, even though it was looking a bit touch and go for a while there. So that's a good thing for them, definitely, although disappointing for them that they didn't make it into the top 2. When we look in Pool B, personally, it's not all that surprising that Team Envy and Team Heretics ended up in the top 2. As you can see, Envy did not get any losses throughout the week, and I'm a massive Envy fan, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm not biased in that sense. Team Heretics, I really love watching. They're so much fun to watch, and G2 Esports was so close in, you know, in the skill and everything. Like, their series was so close that they could have very easily also made it into the top 2. It just came down to the end of the series against Heretics. So G2 will probably do fairly well, I would imagine. Although, actually, seeing how things went this week, anything could probably happen. Pool C, I think a lot of people were really surprised that 100 Thieves made it into that top 2 spot, because it looked like they were struggling so much this week. They really looked like they were having a hard time. People were like, oh my god, these veterans, they're gonna completely embarrass themselves and they're gonna fall out of the competition. What is gonna happen? But they did manage to pull it back right at the end. Of course, Midnight Esports having already been guaranteed into the guaranteed qualification, which sort of took people by surprise as well. And then Pool D, Evil Geniuses, again, the only team to actually definitively make it into the top 2. UIU got their place through the head-to-head tiebreakers. So again, everything was very close in Pool D. But when you look at the bottom teams, you know, only Team Divine they were the one team who actually had a win. Lightning Pandas, Mesa Gaming, and Nation of Power didn't get a single win throughout the entire week. So it's going to be pretty crazy. So before we look at what happened in day 5, let's have a look and see how this double elimination bracket works. So we can see here we will have Fact Revolution going against Accelerate, and the winner of that will face FaZe Clan. Team Sween, Riders, the winner of that will face Overtime. Mindfreak, FC Black, the winner of that will face G2 Esports. Team Space, Tainted Minds, the winner of that will face Red Reserve. We also have a losers bracket, so we'll see the loser of match 1 faces the loser of match 8. The loser of match 2 faces the loser of match 7. The loser of match 3 faces the loser of match 6, and the loser of match 4 faces the loser of match 5, which, when I say it like that, sounds kind of crazy. It's really way more simple than it sounds. But we will end up having 4 teams qualify as a result of this double elimination bracket. So let's move on to day 5. Accelerate Gaming. Accelerate were the first team to qualify for the CWL through the bracket playoffs after beating both Fact Revolution and FaZe Clan 3-2, leaving them to face off against Team Sween. They took the series 3-0, giving them the first spot. Team Space. Team Space came next, and they looked solid in both of their first 2 matches, 3-0 against Tainted Minds and 3-1 against Red Reserve. This put it down to the game against Mindfreak, which they won 3-0, shooting them into the CWL. Red Reserve. After losing to Team Space in the winners bracket, Red Reserve had to head over to the losers bracket to face Fact Revolution, but after a 3-0 beating, hope was still on their side, and it held up. After a 3-2 against G2 Esports, followed by a 3-1 against Team Sween, Red Reserve was safe.
Oh, you need a grapple from Zero because he has a grab slam. He can put the game to bed right here, right now. A triple kill from Zero.
God.
Can you believe it? That is how it's gonna end. Red Reserve make the 2019 Call of Duty World League.
Overtime. The last of the 4 teams to secure themselves a spot were Overtime, who guaranteed FaZe Clan to be the first of the big orgs to not make the CWL. They took a 3-1 against FC Black and a 3-2 against FaZe Clan, finally culminating in a 3-1 against Mindfreak, ending the competition. So after this week of surprises, upsets, near misses, hope and success, these are the 2 divisions heading into the Pro League. So we now know every team that is going to be going forward into the CWL Pro League in Fort Worth in March. They will be, of course, joining the 4 teams who made it through from Las Vegas. I'm super happy for all these teams who made it. A big congratulations to them, and of course, commiserations to all the teams who didn't. But there is still time for roster swaps before Fort Worth, so we may be seeing things even be shaken up before we get to that point. But as for now, I've been Gio. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. I make a lot of esports content. If you already know me, you'll know I'm very deep in the Overwatch hole, but there will be more Call of Duty content to come, and maybe even other games as well. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys soon.